Welcome to Just a Minute. Is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and abroad, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented, humorous, wonderful players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Fred MacAulay, and seated on my left, Stephen K. Amos and Jenny Eclair. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, or repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She'll help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from a building called the Pleasance Grand, which is part of the Pleasance complex up here at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we have a delightful, excited Festival Fringe audience here. Let's begin the show with Jenny Eclair. Jenny, the subject here is the secret of my success. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
The secret of my success is so secret no one's ever bothered to tell me. I think it might hover around the fact I look a bit like Sue Pollard, and some people think I did Heidi High. Never did I get the credit for all her work.
Paul Challenge.
Sadly, repetition of high.
I've never watched the programme. I thought it was spelt Heidi High, and the second high was H-I-G-H. I didn't know, Paul. I didn't know that. Isn't it funny that just before we started the show, Paul was backstage saying, let's try not to be petty.
No, but let's be fair, Jenny.
Heidi High, you know.
Let's be fair. That was clever. A clever challenge in just a minute. Right?
Yes, yes.
And I'm going to pause a second and take my jacket off. It's very, very hot in here. Chat amongst yourselves a moment.
No, you don't know what you're asking for. Calm yourselves.
Right, there we are.
Nicholas is now down to a G-string.
It could get to that. Anyway, Paul, the correct challenge. You take over the subject. There are 46 seconds available. The secret of my success starting now.
If I have any success, it's down to the quality of the people I work with. Look at Jenny Eclair, this marvellous Sue Pollard lookalike, who mentioned the programme that was in before, but she's so much more talented than that. She won a major award up here at the Edinburgh Festival some time ago, the first female comedian, I believe, to win the ultimate prize. And here she is now in front of us, the secret of her success. What is the secret of my success? I told you it's about working with good people. That's repetition.
And Jenny, you spotted it first.
Yes, he's working with people again. I don't know. Nobody really wants to work with him, but he's repeated
so you've got
himself.
the back again, Jenny. And you've got a point for a correct challenge. Yeah. And you have 18 seconds. The secret of my success starting now.
Is timing. When I started, there were no other girl comics. Great, I got all the work. Now there's hundreds of them. Brings me out in a terrible sweat just thinking, how am I going to get rid of them? All getting all the things... Oh, I've said all. Yes, I know.
Fred, you challenge.
Yes, I'm going to agree with Jenny. She did say something twice.
But what was it, Fred? What was it?
What was it, though, Fred?
It's a secret.
No, she did repeat something. So, Fred, you have a correct challenge. You have a point for that, of course. And you have 4 seconds only available. The secret of my success starting now.
I doubt if I've got enough time to tell you the secret of my success, because it...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Fred MacAulay. So, naturally, Fred is in the lead at the end of the round. Stephen K. Amos, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is small talk. Would you like to talk on the subject? 60 seconds, starting now.
Small talk. Well, that's something I'm not familiar with because I am a well-known raconteur. I can speak for hours on many different subjects, including my own family, whom I can't stand. We went through life kind of ignoring each other, and that's how we've done everything. Just making sure.
Jenny, challenge.
Deviation, this isn't really small talk, is it? It's kind of spilling his emotional guts about his family. I mean, I think if you're talking about small talk, I don't think you should bring the fact that you hate your family into it. That's not polite small talk, is
small
it?
talk is sort of a chitter-chatter, isn't it?
Chitter-chatter?
That's
I
right.
think you'll find round my family Christmas table we do that, and that's small talk. Thank you.
I think it's up to Nicholas to decide.
No.
And bearing in mind, Nicholas, this is my first time on this programme.
Also bearing in mind Jenny's complaints about being challenged before.
What I'm going to do, Stephen...
Yes. Do you remember that bit, the pettiness? Do you remember?
I'm going to take note of what you said, Stephen. I'm going to say, yes, it is the first time you've been on the show, and Jenny's was almost justified, but I give her a bonus point because I think her challenge was justified, but you get a point because you were interrupted, and you keep the subject, try and keep it to small talk, but talk about small talk starting now.
Small talk. It's so annoying when little petty people pick up on little bitty people. Ow!
Yeah.
May I be the little petty person
Yeah.
that picked up on the little?
Petty people.
Two little
I think you were
petties?
trying to be a bit too clever there, Stephen, and you slipped up. Right. So, Jenny, correct challenge. 33 seconds. Tell us something about small talk starting now.
The secret to small talk is asking questions. What's your favourite colour? Do you have children? Would you like an olive? Also, if you're at a party where small talk is going to occur, load your plate up with vol au vents. You might as well stuff your face as somebody in a golfing jumper bores you rigid about his Labrador's cataract operation. I'm not the type of woman to get invited to parties where small talk goes on.
So, Jenny Eclair was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And she's now, with the other points in the round, she's now in the lead at the end of the round. And, Fred, we'd like you to begin the next round. I don't know whether this is something up your street, but tell us something about it. It's pointless inventions. 60 seconds starting now.
I'm sure the audience here and the listeners at home will remember the enthusiasm that we all had at Christmas time when Ronco and KTEL would have adverts on television with their pointless inventions. My favourite was a thing called the Brush-O-Matic, which if you brushed in one direction, gathered up all the dust, and then if you put it in the other way, it put it all back down again. Utterly pointless. The wheel.
Paul, challenge.
Slight hesitation.
Definite hesitation. So, Paul, you got in on the subject, and there are 36 seconds available. Pointless inventions starting now.
Inventions are all down to a question of timing. If the car had been invented before the train, would somebody have come up with the idea of the locomotive? Equally, television. If that had emerged in our society before radio, would anyone have bothered to invent...
Jenny, challenge.
I'm really sorry, Paul. Two befores.
Two before.
Yes,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
You know, the car before that and
Yeah,
the car
no,
before
it's
that.
good,
And who's...
Isn't it called 4x2s? I've never heard of a wooden interjection before.
Well, well tried, Fred. We enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Not quite enough to give you a bonus point, but we enjoyed it. Right, Jenny, you have a correct challenge. Another point to you. 21 seconds. Pointless inventions starting now.
Silicone breasts, they're pointless. What's wrong with putting socks in your bra? Trouble with those.
Fred, challenge.
That might be deviation. I've seen silicone injections that have been point full.
Yeah.
A difficult decision. Well, I don't wear bras, so I'm not quite sure.
Oh, Nicholas.
I have, of course, when I played Dame in pantomime. Yes. So, I don't think that's a pointless invention.
I tell you why I think they're pointless.
Yeah.
Because the silicone breast is not biodegradable. So in years to come, there are going to be landfill sites full of indestructible tits.
That could be a subject for an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. I'd be willing to invest money into it.
I think some
The
people...
Call of the Valley.
Oh, I think some people psychologically do benefit from having their breasts enlarged, so I don't think I can allow it, Jenny. So, Fred,
Okay.
correct challenge. Pointless Inventions, 16 seconds, starting now.
The beach ball, that's another pointless invention. Rather like the globe in which we all live, this planet, there is a compass that directs us around the planet. There are many...
Paul challenge.
It was 2 planets.
The 2 planets, Fred, yes.
I don't think Stephen K. Amos's buzzer is working.
What do you want to try?
Either
Stephen?
that or Nicholas, you've gone colourblind, because I was definitely doing that and nothing happened.
Press your buzzer now.
Yeah,
You
you're
see,
just
it's working
slow,
all right.
Stephen. You're just... Just trying to help, you know.
You're just slightly slow on the draw.
Well, I apologise.
Hold it in your hand all the time, Stephen.
No, I do.
Keep...
It's part of the problem.
Right, are we ready? Paul, you had the correct challenge, I believe. 7 seconds. Pointless Inventions, starting now.
Raspberry jelly that doesn't taste like anything is one of the worst inventions you can imagine. Have a look at the...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, and he's gained that extra point for doing so. And we are moving on. Who's in the lead? It is Jenny still, then Paul Merton, then Fred MacAulay, and then Stephen K. Amos in that order. Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, this is interesting. My unfinished screenplay. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I suppose I do have an unfinished screenplay. I refer to it preferably as a work in progress rather than an unfinished screenplay. That sounds rather pessimistic, as if the thing will never be finished. I am currently making a show for the British Broadcasting Corporation about the birth of Hollywood, which will go out on the 2nd channel sometime.
Jenny, challenge.
Deviation, this has become a plug.
And I haven't finished the screenplay for the show.
Even if it's a plug, he's still not deviating from the subject on the card.
Oh.
So he's entitled to say that.
Sorry, I let
Same
my
way that
jealousy
I could mention that my memoirs are coming out this week, but...
Just in time. How dare you? What an insult.
And you're mentioned in them, Paul?
Am I?
Yes.
Favourably?
Favourably.
Oh, that's nice.
Very favourably.
Really?
So I'll give you a signed copy.
Oh, how lovely.
Lovely, yes.
That'll be straight on eBay.
So, an incorrect challenge. Paul, 43 seconds. My unfinished screenplay starting now.
It is a long-held ambition to one day make a cinematic film for the cinema. It would be wonderful to sit there with the audience, if it was indeed a successful movie, of course, because the history of the motion picture is littered with massive turkeys. Many people, particularly British comedians, have tried to make longer entertainment for theatrical release, but it doesn't always work because the extent of the half-hour sketch show to be stretched further than that takes more than just repeating the same stuff 3 times. One has to have a proper plot, understandable characters, a story which grabs the audience's interest and takes them all... Oh, Chums there. Oh, I bet I guess who it was. Who was it?
You were really going there.
Yeah, I don't know why we have Sue Pollard on this show.
It's Little Miss Petty.
Hello.
Audiences.
It's a shame you interrupted. I was just about to give him the commission. Yeah. I was going to come up with the funding. Yeah.
So close.
Yeah,
It was about 2 million from the BFI.
Unfortunately...
Oh, really?
Yeah. You did mention audiences more
Yeah,
than
I'm
once,
sure, yeah.
right? So Jenny got in with 5 seconds to go. Haven't gained any friends by that challenge.
I don't care!
Enjoy it anyway.
You have, well, you know, friendly people in the audience. Right. My unfinished screenplay, Jenny, 5 seconds starting now.
My unfinished screenplay stars a plucky 50-year-old woman.
So Jenny was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's increased her lead at the end of the round, just 2 ahead of Paul Merton. And so, Jenny, we'd like you to begin the next round. This is a subject that could take many different ways. A brave heart. 60 seconds starting now.
A brave heart doesn't give up on a good fight. It's also the title of a film starring that ghastly creature, Mel Gibson, who is not a brave heart.
Friend challenge.
Sorry, I think that's deviation. The film was not A Braveheart, it was Braveheart.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think,
Yeah.
given that
Pessimist is kind of catching.
I'm coming in for the word "ah."
Yeah.
I think might give me the title of pedant of the programme.
No, you've got a correct challenge.
Excellent.
Yes. It might be pedantic, but you've got a correct challenge.
And have I got about 4 seconds to go?
No, you've got 50 seconds.
Oh dear.
If only you'd
Yeah,
waited.
there's a Scotsman. He's going to talk about a brave heart starting now.
Who can forget at the end of the film that Mel Gibson was in the impassioned plea when he said, "Patriots of Scotland, starving and outnumbered in the year of our Lord 1314, charged the fields of Bannockburn. They fought like Scotsmen. They fought like patriots and..."
Sorry.
Stephen, you can.
I'm sure you said the word fought twice.
I did.
You did.
We're Scotsmen. We'll fight 3, 4, 5 times.
And you were
Make
fighting,
something of it.
You were fighting hard to get it through on that one. It was a brave attempt. Stephen K. Amos, you've got the subject. A point, Amos. 34 seconds available. A brave heart starting now.
A brave heart is what the constitution of man needs. For us all to move on with the advancement of humankind, we must all look inside ourselves and find the strength to give our news and our love to the young people coming behind us. Because if we don't, the whole planet will implode. There'll be no one left here to take on the message. Keep the young children, keep them...
Jenny challenge.
Young and keep the.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a favour with that challenge, actually. No, it was an impassioned plea, yes.
I was just thinking, if the English had had a speech like that at Bannockburn, it would have been a right heavy defeat.
Who fought?
Right. So, Jenny, correct challenge. And there are only 8 seconds available.
You evil witch! That was mine!
I'm sure you can get it back.
Don't you worry.
She needs to win.
A brave heart is with you, Jenny. 8 seconds, starting now.
People say you need a brave heart to do stand-up comedy. I refute this fact. Most comedians...
So, Jenny Eclair was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point has increased her lead at the end of the round. And Stephen K. Amos, we're back with you. We'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, the subject here, human anatomy. 60 seconds, starting now.
The human anatomy is a strange thing, but in my particular case, I'm very, very pleased that there are some stereotypes that I can live with. Basically, when people ask me about what I may possess between my thighs...
I hope you all know what I was trying to do there.
And we thank you on behalf of the Radio 4 listeners.
We were so
I
trying to
should
be
explain
kind.
to our listeners that guffawing laughter was not from the audience, it was Stephen K. Amos. Laughing at what he said and his embarrassment.
It's total embarrassment. I was going to go somewhere quite intelligent and highbrow, but... Oh, no.
So you went do you challenge first, Fred?
Yeah, and I've no idea what I challenged for, I'm afraid. Maybe deviation.
Maybe deviation. It
Trying to
wasn't...
say that I'm not a man.
No, it wasn't deviation from human anatomy.
Well, in that case, it's an incorrect challenge, and we can go back to Stephen's thighs. I was going to say on your own head, be it, Nicholas.
But can he stretch it over a minute? That's the question you have to ask.
We could have had him for the very, very in the first sentence.
I know.
But we let
Yes,
that go.
they were all very generous.
We decided not to, Jenny, because it seemed kinder.
You did say very, very, which is a very easy way when you've never played the game very often before. But you all were generous and let him have his way with that one. But he's got his way with this one as well. And I wonder where it's going now. 42 seconds, Stephen, on human anatomy. Starting now.
Human anatomy is a subject I studied at school, encapsulating the whole nature and biology of human beings. Basically, I found myself playing with dolls like the Action Man.
Jenny challenge.
Only because he was hesitating.
Yeah, he was hesitating.
Oh.
But there was a definite there, Stephen, actually.
I use that word.
Well, you may you've erred already, but not in that sense. I love the idea of you playing with dolls, so I think that was very sweet.
I thought it was getting quite dark at that point.
It was,
so,
yes. 25 seconds available, Jenny. human anatomy starting now.
Human anatomy is the study of the human form. By that, I do not mean the ogling of young women and their breasts.
Paul challenge.
Sorry, I completely lost what we were talking about. What was it?
Right. Paul got a point for that, because we enjoyed what he said. Jenny, an incorrect challenge. You have 13 seconds. Human anatomy starting now.
Peel back the skin, what have you got? Flesh, then bone. That's a skeleton. Here are some things you could label on that bony white.
Paul challenge.
It was slowing down a bit.
It was definitely hesitation.
Hesitation.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome, Paul.
It was
Yes.
getting into the realm of rubbish as well.
Slow rubbish.
Let's face it, it's never a long journey for this show. It's only around the corner.
So, Paul, you've got in with 3 seconds to go. Human anatomy starting now.
If you take the human form, human anatomy, you can...
So Paul was then speaking as the whistle went, and he gained that extra point for doing so. He's creeping up on our leader, who is still Jenny Eclair, and then it's Stephen K. Amos and Fred MacAulay in that order. And Jenny, we'd like you to begin the next round. My inheritance. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
My inheritance includes a chain of hotels all around the world. Oh, sorry, I've confused myself with Paris Hilton again. Don't you just hate it when that happens? My inheritance from my dad is extra large knees, bobbly long joints in the middle of my legs. From my mother, I have thin hair and a certain waspish quality. Let's just not think that inheritance is only about money. It can be personal goods gifted. My grandmother's bacon scissors, a button box from an agent aunt.
Paul, you
That's a
challenged.
shame, it was going so well. Hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes Jenny.
I went into Agent Aunt. I shouldn't mention that because she was at the MI5 and it's all very secret.
So my inheritance is a subject. Paul, we're back with you. 20 seconds starting now.
When I look around at my inheritance, I say to my mother and father, they live in a nice house in Ireland. It's particularly small, but it's okay. That would be something I would inherit, I suppose. I've not gone through life thinking about what my inheritance should be. Perhaps one day I'll walk through this proud city at the head of a parade where people will say to me, Paul Merton, this is your inheritance. You deserve it. But until that day happens...
So, Paul Merton kept going with great aplomb until the end. Oh, and he's now overtaken Jenny Eclair. He's one ahead in the lead, and we're coming into the final round.
I always do this.
I usually expect more than that when I use those words.
I always peak too early in this game.
No, you haven't. No, your peak was great, and it's lovely. And,
They're not silicon.
no. Stephen K. Amos in third, and then Fred MacAulay in fourth. But their contributions are all great, and the points are valuable.
Home crowd.
Can I just ask Nicholas, is there still everything to play for?
Yes.
Stephen, we'd like you to begin this next round. Oh, a very poetic and very historic subject. A gathering storm. It's apt for Edinburgh, isn't it? 60 seconds, starting now.
A gathering storm is something that could happen in this very theatre if nobody manages to make sure that Jenny Eclair does not win this game. I will go absolutely angry. I'm being pinched right now by this woman, this vixen, this blonde-haired, glasses-wearing witch. Who did that?
That is repetition of which from the previous round.
So, Fred, you challenge first.
There were two thises.
Yeah, there were two thises. Oh. Yeah. Tough challenge, but correct, Fred. So you have another point, and you have 41 seconds. A gathering storm, Fred, starting now.
Just looking over Arthur's Seat earlier today, I could see the clouds beginning to roll in from the Firth of Forth. They were dark, they were dooming, they were laden with rain.
Full challenge.
There was a lot of days one after another.
They were.
Sadly.
It's a difficult game, isn't it?
It's a difficult game, yes.
Yes.
Well, not for people that can play it.
Oh, no, it's always difficult. It's always difficult.
It's always difficult. We even don't play it. I should concentrate on the news quiz if I were you.
He says the same to me.
Yeah. I only said that because I want them to know how excellent you are in that particular show. It's always...
In comparison to...
Well, me, because I've never been asked to do it. Right. So there are 31 seconds. Who challenged? It was Paul.
Yeah.
On a gathering storm starting now.
Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia. The British government looked on askance. Winston Churchill knew that there was a gathering storm, war clouds over Europe, but the Prime Minister of the day, Neville Chamberlain, thought that a policy of appeasement towards this dictator was the way to go. But the aforementioned great British hero realised that when he came to power, there was to be no more mollycoddling of Hitler. We had to confront him. We stood alone in 1940. We must never forget that until...
Jenny challenge.
I held off but until the third wee.
I admire your restraint. The effort must have killed you.
It really did.
Oh, he was going so well. It was so patriotic.
Yeah.
This audience are about to get on their feet. About to follow him down the Royal Mile.
Tell you what, I'll make sure I hesitate when I start. I'll hesitate and let Paul take it back. And then he can go on.
Because it was a correct challenge.
Yeah.
And if I'm fair within the rules of just a minute, you've got a point for that. And it's going to be a very interesting result because there's only 2 seconds to go. So,
Thank you for letting me go as long as you did, Jenny.
So within the rules of just a minute, Jenny, you're correct. You have the subject. 2 seconds. A gathering storm starting now.
A gathering storm is,
Paul
of course...
challenge.
Well, deviation. She said she was going to start with a hesitation, and she didn't.
Paul got a point for that, because we enjoyed what he said. Jenny's got a point because he was interrupted. A gathering storm, 1 second, Jenny, is starting now.
Never read it.
So let me give you the final score. A very interesting one, actually. Stephen K. Amos, who's never played the game before, Fred, who's only played it occasionally, both came equal together in second place. And we have 2 people ahead of them with the same number of points. So we say they are the joint winners with Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair. So, we've only arranged for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players, these exciting and talented players of the game, Paul Merton, Fred MacAulay, Jenny Eclair and Stephen K. Amos. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Toulousha Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and from our audience here on the Festival Fringe at the Pleasance, who've cheered us on our way. We've enjoyed ourselves. They've enjoyed themselves. I hope the listeners have enjoyed themselves and will tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the program 4 exciting, delightful, and talented players of this game. Sitting on my right, we have Paul Merton and Liza Tarbuck, and sitting on my left, it's Sue Perkins and John Sargent. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Trudy Stevens, who's going to help me keep the score and blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House at the end of Great Portland Street in London West 1. And we begin the show with Paul Merton. The subject is how to audition. 60 seconds starting now.
Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this sun of York, and all the clouds that lowered in our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. I auditioned for RADA back in the 1970s, and that was the Shakespeare speech I did. I wasn't very good, but there was something about the audition process that I enjoyed. It was being examined by professional eyes. So even though I didn't get into that...
Sue Perkins, you challenge.
Fell down on
hesitive
speech.
stumbling.
Stumbling. I was all right when I was talking Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I know. Fine, yes.
There's a lesson in that.
I'd have given you the job, to be honest.
Yeah, I would have done as well. They were looking for a caretaker. That was unfortunate.
True, correct challenge. We call that stumble hesitation. So you have 33 seconds and you tell us how to audition starting now.
The best way I've found to get a job when auditioning is to ask the director if I might participate in the casting couch, whereupon they look with abject horror, ask for the small blonde girl and give me the job, just so they don't have to see me lying or reclining on that said sexual piece of apparatus. I think possibly the best way now is to just be good, the old-fashioned way of doing something sincerely and properly.
Paul, challenge.
There was a repetition of 2 ways.
Well, listen, Paul, correct challenge. You have 11 seconds. You've got the subject back again. How to audition starting now.
Later on, I tried some words from Look Back in Anger, written in 1956 by John Osborne, one of the original angry young men. And...
Liza, challenge.
Rubbish. Anger and angry. I was just a bit too eager on the buzzer. Is that a point off?
What's that?
No. I was too eager.
No, I love it when women get too eager. But it's an incorrect challenge.
Yep.
So Paul has another point, and he has the subject. And there are only 2 seconds left, Paul. How to audition starting now.
I would like to mention angina, because that hasn't...
In this game, whoever is speaking as the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Paul Merton, and it doesn't surprise you to hear that he is in the lead at the end of that round. Liza, will you begin the next round? The subject is a fortune teller. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
About 10 years ago, I had the need in me to consult a fortune teller. I took myself off to a woman who'd been recommended to, and I found her...
John, challenge.
A woman who'd been recommended to. It's not English.
You're absolutely right. She was actually consulting the fortune teller about that precise problem, John, and you've just brought it back.
John, I agree. It is actually English, but what you're saying is not correct grammar.
It's rubbish, is what
Well,
you're saying.
English is grammar, isn't it?
I'm in the wrong show. I just walked into quote-unquote.
John, as you haven't played it quite as often as the others, I tell you what we'll do. We'll be generous and say, yes, it's a correct challenge, and you have the subject, and 51 seconds, a fortune teller starting now.
A fortune teller usually has to give you good news because you go to a fortune teller to be cheered up. They know this. They realise when you come in, you've got a problem. The difficulty is if you arrive at a fortune teller and you don't have a real angst inside you, then they get really worried. You're putting them under an enormous test because they wonder, what is it about this creep that has forced him to come into my little place with my little crystal ball?
Right, Paul, challenge.
Yeah, so before we all lapse into a coma, I think the... Someone open a window. Repetition of little.
2 littles there, John. 2 little place, yes. I mean, you do have a very seductive voice that does make us doze a bit.
This isn't one of those panel shows, is it, where the new guy gets torn apart, is it?
Bring on the wolves.
We don't tear apart, but we do have fun at each other's expense.
Yes.
I think that puts it quite nicely. Paul, the correct challenge. 19 seconds, a fortune teller, starting now.
One night on Blackheath, I walked towards this tent. The moonlight shimmered off the canvas as I realised that inside was Madame Arcati, a woman who could see beyond the ordinary measures of our time and space. She was a clairvoyant. She was able to tell me...
So Paul Martin was again speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point and has increased his lead at the end of that round. And John, we'd like you to begin the next round. And this has obviously been chosen especially for you. The subject is 2 to Tango. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
2 to Tango. What a very boring subject. The next thing people are going to talk about is Strictly Come Dancing.
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
That was a definite hesitation,
Was it?
John.
Sorry,
Yes.
John.
Good, excellent, that's got me out of it. That's what I wanted
Sue,
to get
53
sorted
seconds. You tell us something about 2 to tango, starting now.
It takes 2 to tango, unless you're John Sargent, in which case it takes 47,000 people. Movement, choreography, a winch, several dancers littering the place, disporting themselves to make him look like the gyrating god that he is. Some may have said he didn't quite have the chutzpah necessary to carry off those tight tights. However, I was one of the viewers who phoned in time after time. That's a repetition of time.
Liza, you picked it up first.
Time after time.
Rudimentary, Susan.
Time after time, right. So, there are 30 seconds, Liza. You tell us something about 2 to tango, starting now.
It takes 2 to tango is a wonderful phrase, really conveying that one might have an idea, but being bucked up by a second person could really see that thought be carried out into an actual, tangible object, for example. If it was a project, maybe you've had an idea that something would work. The other person, the second person...
Sue challenged.
It was a repetition of person.
Yeah,
Yes.
you-
It was very philosophical.
Yeah, I was taking notes, so it was interesting.
11 seconds, Sue. And you tell us something about 2 to tango, starting now.
Yes, his tango was magnificent, but who wanted to see the foxtrot? I know I did. Seeing his dance partner, whose name eludes me because she was trying to do it properly and therefore it was no fun whatsoever. I can't remember the name, however...
So, Sue Perkins, speaking as a whistle weighing again, that extra point. She's moved forward. She's one behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. And then John Sargent and Liza Tarbuck both have 1 apiece. And, Sue, will you begin the next round? The subject, what shall we do with a drunken sailor? There are 60 seconds, starting now.
What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Put him on the Jeremy Kyle show, where, of course, they're doing a drunken marine special, and he'll be forced to take a DNA test because a transsexual prostitute will at some point have claimed that while he was on the Source on voyage, he met...
John challenge.
Hesitation on the Source.
On hesitation?
Yes.
She goes quicker than anybody else on the show.
We can take him. We can take him. Come on.
No, John, you're very keen. I don't always encourage keenness, but that was a bit too keen.
All right.
40 seconds still available, Sue, for what shall we do with a drunken sailor, starting now.
Of course, it comes from a maritime rhyme, a sea shanty, if you will. I don't know much of it, apart from the fact that it's early in the morning, which I presume is early in the morning. One never knows. Not...
Paul challenge.
Oh, you buffoon.
A repetition of In the Morning.
Yes.
Yes,
In the
that would
morning.
be it, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's right. So, Paul, you got the subject. There are 30 seconds available. What shall we do with a drunken sailor, starting now?
I don't really remember what the answer was in this particular song, but I do recall that we had to sing it during music lessons when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And Sue has already given us the tune, but I seem to remember there was something about clap him in irons with a hose pipe in him or something like that. But whatever you think should happen today, the Royal Navy looks upon drunkenness amongst its recruits severely. They do not like it at all. They'd much prefer if you were... I don't know what they prefer.
Liza, you challenge first.
Just a little bit of hesitation.
No hesitation. And you've cleverly got in with 4 seconds to go, Liza.
Thank the Lords.
On what shall we do with a drunken sailor, starting now?
My favourite is sea shanty. Oh, Keane, do you see what I did to myself?
Giddy.
Silly, stupid girl.
At least you're not
what did you
repeating
say?
time.
Hesitation, I'm
It was.
afraid.
It was hesitation, yes.
It was.
Come on, it's a game.
It is a game. Luckily, it's not a profession.
I'd be skinned.
Oh, it's a game and we love playing games.
How many
2 seconds for you. What shall we do with a drunken sailor, starting now?
Rum, whiskey, brandy to be avoided at all costs. Don't give him anything like that.
Paul Merton was again speaking as a whistle weighing gain. That extra point has moved forward. He's still in the lead. And Liza Tarbuck, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is the worst thing about the 1980s. And there are 60 seconds starting now.
Well, apart from Exxon Valdez and Bhopal, the assassination of John Lennon, luminous socks, Cabbage Patch Kids, Miami Vice, the fashion influence of the programme Dynasty, Joe Dolce, St Winifred's School Choir, apart...
Very good. No, that was a great effort there, Lisa, but unfortunately you paused and Sue got in first. 41 seconds. The worst thing about the 1980s, Sue, starting now.
The worst thing about the 1980s was the jumper my mother gave me, which was batwing, if you're trying to be technically specific. However, it made me look as if my arms merely went from my wrist to my hips, and I was attempting to break the land speed record. It was in puce, not a colour fashionable then or indeed now, and embossed on the front, Snoopy. Never liked that particular character. I have a fondness for dogs, it's fair to say, but not ones that are plastic and over my hooters. So I went into school. On the one day of the year, we were allowed to wear our own clothes, and the great thing was about that cartoon animated figure on my chest is that people knew where to aim for when they were throwing things at me.
So, Sue Perkins, with points in the round and also one for speaking as the whistle went. And Paul, your turn to begin. Will you take the subject now? Oh, yes, a lovely one. A poker face. 60 seconds, starting now.
Lady Gaga's hit, I suppose that's repetition. She had... So I said Gaga's, you see, Gaga's. Not Gaga, Gaga's, you see.
I was thinking there was a bit of hesitation after Gaga's.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there was, actually. No. But it isn't repetition, because it's all one word.
No, that's true.
I mean, there's two
the Gaga
syllables.
wasn't repetition.
No, right. If anybody wants to write in about that, please don't send the letters to me.
Yeah.
So, an incorrect challenge, Sue. Paul, you've still got a poker face. 57 seconds, starting now.
I don't play poker, but a poker face is prized amongst the players that do indulge in this particular card game. If people cannot read the expression on your face, they can't tell whether you have a winning hand or a losing one. That's as far as I can tell is what poker means. That's tell twice. Nobody's noticed. 3 times.
But Sue spotted it.
Let's tell 3 times.
Tell 3 times.
41 seconds, Sue. A poker face, starting now.
To play poker well, you need to be inscrutable. You need to have a visage that no...
Liza, challenge.
2 needs.
2 needs.
I'm very needy.
Too many needs.
36 seconds, Liza. A poker face with you, starting now.
One of my favourite givers of a poker face was Captain Mainwaring, or Mannering, off of Dad's army. His joyful visage sometimes was the source of much rib tickling in our house. Rib tickling? I'm clearly mad.
It's wonderful the things that come out under pressure on it. I mean, verbally, I'm talking about.
I was going to say, speak for yourself.
Sue, you challenge.
There was obviously such a sort of fond childhood, playful memory, some would say, of the rib tickling, that there was quite a long pause after it.
There definitely was, Sue. Right, you have 23 seconds. Tell us something about a poker face, starting now.
Say you got a flush. Your face mustn't do the same. You got to keep it real. No one in the room must know that underneath that incredibly calm exterior lurks the beating heart of an imminent champion. Thankfully, I'm not possessed of such a poker face. Otherwise, I'd play the game more frequently than I do and would be bankrupt. For although I could possibly keep my eyebrows from moving, unfortunately, I've got a twitchy nostril, which gives it away. And whenever I lie, there it goes.
So, Sue Perkins, another point as the whistle went, is creeping up on Paul Merton again, which is an interesting situation, even on radio, and only 1 point behind him. The other two are trailing a little. And Liza, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is music lessons. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
It's a great thing, an accomplishment for a young girl to have music lessons, because it means that she's got something to talk about when being introduced to her accomplished family. Oh, let Liza play the guitar for you. She's wonderful at it. Sadly, the said instrument was a little bit too big, and the teacher in question was half a pervert. I didn't last very long. However, I do wish I'd learnt the harp. Failing that...
Sue... What's your challenge?
Repetition of learnt. There were two
Yes, right,
learnts.
there was 2 learnts.
2 learnt. I should have said learned.
I'm intrigued by this half a pervert concept.
Yeah.
Did he take the weekends off or something?
Sue, a correct challenge. 36 seconds on music lessons, Sue, starting now.
I had piano lessons with a whole pervert. He had 1 tooth and he whistled sibilantly every time he tried to reprimand me, which was frequently because I was rubbish. Scales, endless arpeggios, chords, never learned to tune. I would watch people who didn't learn with the half a sex maniac.
A repetition of learn.
No, it was learned and learned.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yes.
oh, sorry.
God, he
One has to listen.
lost none of your rigour, Nicholas.
No,
Fair enough, fair enough.
no, right. So an incorrect challenge. 17 seconds, music lessons starting now.
So odd was he that I decided to take up the flute. Now, there's no reason on earth you'd want to play that particular instrument. Hardly the sort of thing you'd want to get out at the end of a riotous party and have a go on. It's no good. What can you do apart from play What Shall We Do with a Drunken Sailor? No one wants to hear that. It's not cool. It's not funny.
Right, Paul Chalice.
It's not twice.
It's not.
Quite quickly.
It's not cool, it's not funny. Right, oh, Paul, you've got him with 1 second to go. On music lessons starting now.
I studied the piano before.
So Paul Merton again was speaking as a whistle when gain that all-important, not all-important, but one of that extra point. And he's just keeping one ahead of Sue Perkins and a few more ahead of John Sargent and Liza Tarbuck. And whose turn is it to begin? I think it's probably yours, John. Yes, it is. Oh, here we are. Good one for you, John. Dinner party etiquette. You have 60 seconds starting now.
Dinner party etiquette was taught to me by my mother. She was very strong on certain subjects. Serviettes.
Hesitation.
Yeah,
Hesitation.
There's a full
I'm
stop,
afraid so.
wasn't it?
I was just thinking about my mother, and I was thinking how awful it all was. I was suddenly thrown back to my childhood.
I feel terrible.
You know, it was quite a moment there.
Yeah.
And so I hesitated. My mother
Was it the
came into my
serviettes?
mind.
Was it serviette abuse?
Well, she...
No, they would be
she
called
was very-
napkins then, definitely.
But also, if you said serviette, she would just stiffen so much. The whole dinner would be ruined.
So you should say napkins.
You should certainly say no.
After the show, shall we all rock and cradle you and just get a sense of wholeness going?
No, just talk me through it all over again.
You should have kept all that in the show, John. Unfortunately, Sue got in with the correct challenge of hesitation. 52 seconds, Sue. Dinner party etiquette starting now.
I know very little about this subject. Having said that, I have a vague recollection you pass the port to the right and transfer the Vimto from the left. That's all I remember. Usually...
Paul Challenge.
I don't know much about these things, but isn't that deviation? Isn't the port passed to the left?
It is. It's passed to the left.
Is it?
I told you. I mean, at least I was honest. I mean, do I get a... Just cretinous and ill-mannered.
So well listened and correct challenge, yes. Port goes down the left. And there's an easy way to remember, that's why I always say.
Yes.
On a ship, the left-hand side is the port side.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it doesn't make any difference. You couldn't care less, could it? 41 seconds. Dinner party etiquette is with you, Paul, starting now.
Never sit the Earl of Gloucester next to the Duchess of Devonshire, because the Duchess of Devonshire's a puppy instead. I don't care. I had to say it twice for the sake of it. I didn't care. I was going to say the aforementioned, but, you know, never mind all that.
Lisa, you challenge first. Yes, repetition. 37 seconds.
2 Duchesses of Devonshire.
Don't make her right.
No.
Lisa, dinner party etiquette starting now.
My dinner party etiquette requires you to have a very large drink when you come into my house, and then a few nibbles, egg crudités, possibly a dip, and I'll cater for every diet. If you were to tell me you're allergic to wheat, that's fine by me. I'll give you celery and some wasabi and pea dip. If you were...
Paul Challenge.
We've had 2 dips.
You've got 2 dips.
A double dipper?
Yeah.
Have you heard? It's a double dip. 2
Yeah.
duchesses and a double dip.
Yeah.
Over here.
Paul.
We also had too few words, I'm afraid.
Well, you should have challenged
No,
him.
because
Be
it was
a bit
just...
too
it
pedantic
came
on this
immediately
game,
afterwards.
Uncle John.
Right.
I know. We'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
20
mention the
seconds, Paul.
serviettes.
Dinner party etiquette starting now.
I hadn't been to a dinner party till I was about 30 years old, which seems a very long time indeed, but while I was growing...
Sue Challenge.
Is that deviation, then?
Why?
Because you haven't been for a dinner party in so long, you wouldn't know contemporary dinner etiquette.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just testing.
You can still know it. You can study it, you can read it, you can be instructed in it, but you needn't actually have experienced it.
Thank you, Yoda.
Moments of great wisdom.
Sometimes you
grasshopper
look
of
at
radio.
me. Sometimes you look at me, Susan, and say, "What's the Wally going on about?"
As I said, I don't have a very good poker face.
So, Paul, incorrect challenge. 14 seconds. Dinner party etiquette starting now.
You have to remember where the knife and fork goes, either side of the plate, and you should start by using the outward utensil. That was one thing that I was taught when I went to my first dinner party after I had reached a magnificent time in my life.
Right, so Paul Merton was again speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's about 3 or 4 ahead of Sue Perkins, and he's far more than that ahead of Liza Tarbuck and John Sargent. But there's a lot of time to go yet. Sue, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is my vegetable patch. Tell us something about my vegetable patch, starting now.
My vegetable patch is one of the few things in life I am truly proud of. The first year I set it up, it was only good for thistles, and I had no donkey, so no use. However, when I embarked on the second season, great things happened. A little care and attention to the brassicas, staving off the cabbage white fly, seeing the club root affecting the turnips, and making sure that should I ever go again, all these problems would be eradicated in an organic and pesticide-free manner. I cannot tell you, cynical as I am, how my heart was gladdened as soon as I saw the tiny tendrils of carrot first appear from the clods of earth that I had dug with my own patient hands. I didn't bother with a spade. Why do so when you can get your hands into the grobbiness of it all? Have you seen celery? I have. And it's not just stuff that you bought. No, it was carefully cosseted. All the millions of salads, the Mizuna, rockets, the incredible cherry tomato.
Well done.
It's quite obvious that Sue actually does have a vegetable
I do
patch.
have a vegetable.
It's an
I'm
extra,
cheering
isn't
myself
it?
up now.
A real tour de force, it really was.
Thank you.
And as someone else who loves growing vegetables, I was with you every moment of the way, living it all. You actually went for 60 seconds without being interrupted, so you get a point for speaking as the whistle went, and you get a bonus point for not being interrupted. And so you move forward, and you're 2 behind Paul Merton, who's in the middle. I don't know what's funny about that. It's a logical fact. So we got the final round. We're back with you to begin, Paul, and there are 60 seconds available as usual, and the subject is Prohibition. Tell us something about Prohibition in this game, starting now.
The Act of Prohibition was passed in America in 1920, making it illegal for any one person to buy a drink. It was not a particularly successful law. It was repealed around about 1933, I think.
Sue Challenge.
Was that a repetition of law?
I don't know. I wasn't listening, to be honest.
I thought it was a law that was passed in 1920, and then
you're quite right.
And then
they passed a law in 1920.
It wasn't a very successful law.
And they repealed the law.
Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, Sue. All right, only 1 point to go now. 49 seconds available. Prohibition with you, Sue, starting now.
It was the time of the Great Depression, and the problem with such phases in economic downturn is everyone really wants a drink. It wasn't a very good idea.
Paul Challenge.
Well, it wasn't the time of the Great Depression because it was from 1920. The Great Depression was
He's right.
1929.
It was about 10 years before the Great Depression.
Yeah, that's right.
But they must have seen it coming and fancied a vodka.
Yeah, they did.
I think it was brought to an end during the time of the Great Depression. So, Paul, a correct challenge. And there are 42 seconds available. Prohibition starting now.
There's a Laurel and Hardy film called Pardon Us that was made early in the sound era, and they get sent to prison for trying to sell prohibitive alcohol to an off-duty policeman. And this film, or as I said before, I might have actually said movie, I can't remember, was actually really redolent of what was happening in 1930s America. The very act of prohibition was an extraordinary success for the Purity Leagues, who had been debating for many years that we should see the end of tobacco being smoked in public, and also the temperance society and movement should have a full hold of what people were putting into their body. Look, they said, alcohol is no good for you. Why not instead look...
So Paul Merton brought that round to an end and also brought the show to an end. So let me give you the final situation. John Sargent, who hasn't played the game very much before, and you didn't get very many points, I'm afraid, John.
I fell asleep during the long minutes.
But we enjoyed having you, and we enjoyed your contribution. And Liza, the same with you, my darling. Whatever you say is always great fun.
It's the medication I'm on.
Sue Perkins did incredibly well. So at the end of this round, we say, Paul, you were in the lead. So we say, you are the winner this week.
Thank you.
Paul Merton. Thank you, thank you. We've already arranged to say a final thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Liza Tarbuck, John Sargent, and Sue Perkins. I thank Trudy Stevens, who's kept the score and blown her whistle so delicately. We thank our producer, Toulouse Galani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're indebted to this lovely audience here at the Radio Theatre in London. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and from this lovely team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the program four exciting, exuberant, exceptional players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandreth, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Jenny Eclair. Will you please welcome all four of them? Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House. And as usual, I'm going to ask our players if they will talk for just a minute without hesitation, repetition, or deviation on the subject that I give them. And we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, an interesting subject. Our American cousins. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I was recently in America, and I was struck by how polite they are in normal conversation. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you'll find the waiter comes over and says something along the lines of, "Hi, I'm Greg. I'll be looking after you tonight." And it's not just eating in the restaurant, because he takes you home.
Graham challenge.
Repetition of restaurant?
Yes, for two restaurants.
Oh,
that's right, yes.
Yeah.
You're doing well.
I was right.
Yeah. It's great.
I'm in the lead. Treasure this moment.
You didn't say it with confidence, but you were right, and you've got 44 seconds available. You take over the subject of our American cousins, starting now.
When you look at our American cousins, you can't help but think we must have had a very fat aunt and uncle. Because they really are enormous, aren't they? Quite the largest things on planet Earth. Obviously, under the sea, there must be bigger creatures.
Gyles, you challenged.
Well, this programme used to be broadcast all over the world. But there was hesitation as we went under the sea.
Yeah.
No! I think he was going quite succinctly.
I'm pretty sure there was hesitation.
He could have paused because he thought he'd gone too far.
He was drowning,
but
Nicholas.
He didn't. He kept going, covering up his faux pas, as you might say.
If that's what you believe, Nicholas, obviously you're in charge,
believe it,
I respect
and I have to make the decisions.
You do, and I love you. Every decision you make is always a good one.
An incorrect challenge, Graham. So you...
Yes, it's a surprise to us all.
So you keep the subject, and 28 seconds are still available. Our American cousins, starting now.
Our American cousins are more or less obsessed by health and fitness. They can't wait to get into the gym each day. Fruit.
Oh, Gyles a challenge again.
Deviation. A moment ago, these people were grotesquely obese.
I had time to reflect.
And they've heard Graham's words, and they're shamed into action.
No, I think, having said what he said before, now saying that is deviation. So, Gyles, you've got your first point. You have the subject. 21 seconds available. Our American cousins, starting now.
In 1497, John Cabot set sail from Bristol on a wonderful ship all the way to the Western world. He took with him 8 sailors. "Hello, Macaullay," he greeted them with those words.
Paul challenge.
Well, he sailed from Bristol all the way to the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Bristol part of the Western world?
Geographical deviation.
Yes.
He was going west.
Is that
Go
like-
west, young man. From Bristol, the only way west is towards the United States of America as it now is.
Yeah, no, I mean, Paul is right. This country...
I'm so sorry.
No,
this is
logically, this country is part of the Western world.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry, in 1497 they were not aware of that.
I don't know whether they could have been aware of that.
They were not aware of that, Nicholas. Take it from me.
But then, Gyles, where was he going? If they weren't aware of it, where was he going?
He thought he was going to China. He thought he was going to Cathay in search
Well, you
of
go the other
silks.
way. That's east.
Yes.
Of course he
You
did
get
the
a
wrong
train, not a boat.
This is what I was about to explain in the 21 seconds that were remaining to me before I conquered. But no, fine, that's
Well,
the way it is.
but hasn't he gone off the subject as well of American cousin?
Yeah. No.
I didn't.
One of the sailors was a forebear of mine. That is the whole point.
Not a cousin, then?
Ah.
Aha!
A distant cousin. A cousin 17 times. Do feel free to come in. This is your programme.
No, we've enjoyed what you said, Gyles. So what I'm going to do, be very generous, because of the humour that you injected, we will give you a bonus point for that.
Thank you.
But Paul did technically have a correct challenge. So he takes over our American cousins with 10 seconds to go, starting now.
MGM's studio is one of the most...
Gyles challenge.
Oh, yes.
MGM.
No.
Repetition. I'm sorry. No. If BBC is repetition, MGM is repetition.
I deliberately said MGMs.
I should explain to our listeners that Gyles gets so passionate about playing this game, he was almost epileptic there when he was...
I know, this is only round 2.
Right.
Round 1, actually. It just feels that you've been through longer rounds.
Shows you how much you feel it, Gyles.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
You've got it back on a repetition of M with our American cousins. And 7 seconds starting now.
My cousin Bernard lives in New York. He moved up from Baltimore because Philadelphia was too big for him.
Oh, wow.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion it was Gyles Brandreth, and you won't be surprised to hear that he has actually got a commanding lead at the end of that round. And unfortunately, we have to begin the next round with Gyles because it's on the card in front of him. I don't mean, unfortunately, that we don't like hearing from Gyles because he gives incredible copy. Overacts like mad, but the thing is, I would love to have somebody else start the next round so we get a different voice, but we haven't.
Delved into Gyles's repertoire. He might just not do angry middle-aged nutter. He might be able to do a whole range of characters.
I like it when he
Don't
sings.
count on it.
Gyles, the subject is a dark secret. 60 seconds starting now.
I have a dark secret, and it is my...
Graham challenge.
I don't want to know it.
I'll give Graham a bonus point for that.
But it involves dental records.
Gyles still has the subject, a dark secret, 58 seconds, starting now.
It involves death. Recently, I hosted the Funeral Directors Awards and congratulated them on thinking outside the box. During the course of the dinner, around the room were a range of caskets, and I was invited to lie in a coffin.
Jenny challenge.
Double invited.
Yes.
Invited once, invited twice.
Invited to do the awards. Well, listen, Jenny.
I was getting bored of not hearing the sound of my own voice as well.
No, there's plenty of time yet, Jenny. There's 43 seconds on this subject. A dark secret starting now.
I have a dark secret about everybody on this panel. They've all begged me to sleep with them. Turn them down, disgusting, hideous boilers. Another dark secret, Graham isn't gay, Paul is. Gyles is very common. Nicholas likes bare-knuckle boxing, and I'm a thief. Just before the show, I nicked 20 quid off the producer's purse. Ah!
Graham challenged.
Repetition of ha.
Yes, indeed, Graham. So you got him very cleverly there. With 21 seconds still available. A dark secret starting now.
In this business we call show, we all...
Paul, your challenge.
Well, I think a hesitation as a genuine dark secret crossed his mind. I realised he didn't want to go on any further with it.
And he tried to avoid repeating show business, didn't he? Well done. Anyway, correct challenge, Paul. A dark secret, and 16 seconds starting now.
I, for many years, was the voice coach for Sir Alec Guinness. When he appeared in many of those great British classics before and after the Second World War, it was my dulcet tones you heard and not his. Isn't that a remarkable thing?
So Paul Merton was speaking then as a whistle when gained that extra point. I can't give him a bonus point for his impersonation, as good as it was. Have you thought of taking it on to one of those talent shows?
No.
Impersonation.
You ever thought of doing anything else other than this show? I should think the opportunities have been there over the years.
I've just written about them in my memoirs.
Oh, well, very good.
Right, there we are. And Graham, we're with you to begin. The subject is my inner monologue. 60 seconds, as usual. My inner monologue starting now.
My inner monologue consists mostly of two questions. The first one is, can I eat this? And the second one is...
Gyles challenge.
By definition, a monologue is just one subject. Monologue.
Whoa. Whoa. Who made you king of monologue?
Yeah, that's an interesting grammatical and technical subject. Yeah. I think I have to give you the benefit of the doubt, Gyles, and say yes to...
If you can't go west from Bristol, you can't have a duologue in a monologue.
No, it's a difficult technical question to answer, but a monologue is a solo talk, and he wasn't giving a solo talk, he was coming back to do another one. So...
Oh. But I see what you mean. No, wait. Actually, no. I'm not taking this lying down. There's not two voices. Right. There aren't two voices in my head.
I can hear them. There are.
Let Derek have a shout.
No, I see what you mean, Graham. I'm always big enough to change my mind. Yes, you had one monologue, then you had another monologue, didn't you? So, Graham, you get the benefit of the doubt. You still keep the subject, my inner monologue, 51 seconds starting now.
My inner monologue, when I'm in a car, turns into a very angry monologue. Isn't it great that you can say monologue more than once? Because, of course, it's the title of the subject. My inner monologue. There, I've said it again. Nothing to be done about it. My inner monologue contains rage. Have I said that before? I don't think I have.
Giles challenge.
Said before.
Before, yes.
Times.
Oh, yes.
Before, yes. Well, listen, Giles, that was a correct challenge. 34 seconds are now available for you. You tell us something about my inner monologue starting now.
My inner monologue is concerned entirely with my weight and my obesity. No bread, rice, pasta or potatoes are at the heart of the new culinary diet that I've introduced. Nil by hand, nothing requiring the use of cutlery, no alcohol, liquid...
Paul challenge.
Nil by hand? What... How on earth are you feeding yourself? Are you sticking pieces of food to the ceiling with your feet? So you gaffer tape them, wake up in the morning and get the dog to pick them up for you?
This is the whole point. You lose an awful lot of weight this way.
But Giles...
No finger food, no crisps, no picking up things. Only eat food that requires the use of cutlery.
Or is it the same height as
but
you?
Giles...
No, I'm fed by young Latvian girls, as it happens.
Giles...
come to room 17 at the Novotel later and you can see it all happening.
Giles, can you be quiet for a moment? Yeah. I was listening to what you said, and you actually said no cutlery.
Oh.
So if you have no cutlery, then how can you have no hands as well to feed yourself?
No. Nil by hand, you use cutlery. I didn't say
no,
who was using
you said no cutlery.
I just explained as I was going through the...
Look, the audience agreeing with me. He said no cutlery.
He could use a small trough.
Yes.
At last,
Made
the
of
voice
silver.
of reason.
Yes.
19 seconds, Paul. My inner monologue starting now.
Great, I won that challenge. Now all I've got to do is make sure that I speak when Nicholas tells me to. Oh, he has. Nobody's remembered the fact that I've hesitated earlier.
Giles, challenge.
A very attractive hesitation.
Yes, all right. You've got... 11 seconds now. My inner monologue starting now.
My inner monologue really concerns the fact that I would like to be Nicholas...
Paul
This
Challenge.
deviation is the second monologue you mentioned, and the subject is my inner monologue, so really he's deviation against my inner monologue 'cause he's talking about the other monologue, which makes two monologues. By the definition of monologue, he's done monologues.
That was Gyles' challenge on Graham earlier on.
And upon mature reflection, you can now think about it again. It could go either way.
No, a monologue doesn't mean to say it can only be one. You can have a succession of monologues.
Yeah, sure, OK.
And it's a case of you going on talking by yourself.
Yeah, because otherwise Alan Bennett wouldn't have done what he has done. If you're only allowed one monologue, his career would have been shorter than it is.
Absolutely.
That's actually quite a sensible...
What a pity you didn't get the subject. You could have said all that.
I think I should get a bonus point for that Alan Bennett line.
No.
No.
What a way to milk an audience. I don't think it was worthy of a bonus point, darling. It was a very interesting comment, but it wasn't absolutely brilliant, eruditious, and humorously...
It wasn't eruditious.
Eruditious, is there such a word? I don't know. Anyway, Gyles, you have a correct challenge, and you have 8 seconds on my inner monologue starting now.
My inner monologue concerns my desire to be Nicholas Parsons in another life.
Paul Challenge.
Did we have concerns before?
Yes.
We did, in repetition
It concerns
of concerns.
his food and his eating and so forth, as you said. Well, listen, Paul, and my inner monologue is back with you 5 seconds ago, starting now.
As I sailed west from Bristol, I thought to myself, I've got to find somebody who's eruditious so I can...
So Paul was then Speaker's whistle when, gained the extra point. He's creeping up on Gyles, who's 2 ahead. Graham is 3 ahead, and Jenny is 3 or 4 behind. But
all right.
That's right. No. But they like to know these things. And you're giving great value in all your wonderful thoughts about...
Alan Bennett, not giving a point for Alan Bennett. National treasure. No point for Alan
Paul,
Bennett.
This subject is a bit bizarre because I don't know how you're going to interpret it. It says the person to my left. That is the subject. Oh, it's all right for you, isn't it? I'm just right. I'm going between my right and my left. It's going to be difficult for Graham if you get it.
Hello.
Paul, the subject is the person to my left. 60 seconds starting now.
The person to my left is Gyles Brandreth, and I think as children we all remember getting a little version of him when we were younger that we could take to bed with us and feed Farley's rusks to, and bits of evaporated milk that are congealed on the end of the bedstead. I myself used to look forward immensely to the cuddly little toy.
Jenny Challenge.
Used to, yes.
Yes, really?
Yes.
Oh, yes, could be. Yeah.
Could be. Well, listen, Jenny. You have the subject. You have 42 seconds available. The person to my left, starting now.
The person to my left is my imaginary friend Penelope. I've had her since I was 6. Sorry, Graham.
I should explain to our listeners that big laugh came because Graham didn't like being referred to as her imaginary friend Penelope. Now, Jenny, the benefit of the doubt, because you could have an imaginary friend to your left.
Yeah.
And you have 36 seconds. The person to my left, starting now.
She's always laughed at my jokes. Here's an impression of Penn. Oh, Jenny, you're so funny. You're better than all those losers on that show. You know, the one you never win, but it doesn't matter, because you're the best.
Paul Challenge.
So haven't we moved on from inner monologue?
My impression
This is the voice that Jenny hears in her head whenever she plays Just a Minute, and probably when she walks down the street as well, I can imagine.
No, when I walk down the street, I pretend I'm being filmed.
Right.
You probably are by the rightful authorities, I should imagine.
But, Paul, what was your challenge from the rules of Just a Minute?
Oh, I've forgotten. No, I don't know.
I don't think she was deviating.
No, I was
in
going
that
to say
sense.
deviating.
So then, benefit of the doubt, Jenny. Yeah. The person to my left, 24 seconds, starting now.
The real person to my left is Graham Norton. Have you ever heard of him? He's been around the block some time. I first met this lad many years ago in Edinburgh when he wore a tea towel on his head. A nativity play? No. He was pretending to be Mother Teresa in a show about Karen Carpenter.
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of he. It's quite a few
Oh,
he probably did.
Yes.
Yeah.
A bit too much repetition of he.
Yeah, it was all about Graham. I was getting a bit sick of it as well.
Yeah, no, I was looking for a way out as well. I was like, what can I do? How can I do it? How can I stop this?
You've come a long way on very little. On one tea towel?
I was hoping to buzz in before you said that.
Come on just a minute and get all the barbs, really. Jenny, well, I think he's got so much to recommend him, and he's got 4 seconds. Who? It was Paul.
Yes.
4 seconds ago. The person to my left, starting now.
Of course, I was mixing him up with teddy bears. The person to my left is actually Gyles.
Right, so he's getting a very even contest. Paul was speaking as the whistle went. He's kept up on Gyles. He's equal with him. Graham's one ahead, and Jenny's one behind him. And Jenny, we're with you to begin again. Would you stalk on the subject of...
Stalk? I'll stalk you any time, Nicholas.
How lovely. Right. Oh, yes, and especially when you know the subject. A gut feeling. That's the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
A gut feeling can sometimes mean you have appendicitis, so if it really hurts, go to the doctors, for heaven's sake, don't muck about. Otherwise, it could be women's intuition. Sometimes we can feel in our waters.
Graham, challenge.
I'm so with the woman in the front there.
Yes.
Yes, it's sometimes. Repetition of sometimes.
You said sometimes twice.
Yes.
Well, when I get a gut feeling, I very rarely think it's women's intuition. That might just be me.
I love it the way Graham has got a... Is
There's
that
lots of audience participation here.
Well, no, because they know I'm a bit of a lame duck on the panel, so they're just helping. They're just going, God love him, he's put a shirt on, let's try and help him. You know, he's had a wash, he's left the house, now try and help him.
Yes, well, there is something
And
in the front row.
them. Thank you very much.
I don't know which one it is you're playing with, but...
No, that lady there was the sometimes.
Well, the lady in the white there, or the lady in the... Oh,
It doesn't really matter. It's radio, isn't it? We're just pointing at darkness. If you're listening at home,
Yes. But our listeners have imaginations too. Which is
let them use them.
Right, let's get on with the show. 47 seconds are available, and Graham, a gut feeling with you starting now.
When I was a child, I had a gut feeling, and I didn't want to go to school. And my mother made me go to the doctor, and he said, "You've got appendicitis." But of course, I didn't. I was just pretending. But I went along with it and had the operation.
Jenny, Shannon.
Well, the weird thing is exactly the same thing happened to me.
No!
Yes! And I thought, I had tummy ache and all that thing, and basically I was trying to wag off school.
Yeah.
And I ended up at Blackpool Royal Infirmary being cut open.
Because you get in more trouble if you said to your mother, actually, I'm just making it, because your mother would hit you very hard if you said, I've wasted your time. So easier to have general anaesthetic and have an operation.
Is there actually anything... Does the appendicitis actually exist? Is it a story that's made up by kids to get away out of school?
The same thing happened to you.
So welcome to the chat show between Graham Norton and Jenny Eclair, and the hospital
well, that
information
was just weird.
Right, yes. 30 seconds available. Graham, you were interrupted. So you have a gut feeling still. 30 seconds starting now.
I have a gut feeling that I'm speaking now, but within 30 seconds I won't be. Because it's very unlikely I'll keep this subject of a gut feeling. That's my gut feeling. I could be wrong. You don't know whether to trust a gut feeling or...
Gyles, challenge.
Eventually hesitation came.
No, I don't. Listen, every member of the audience is saying no, as well as me.
Repetition
Yes,
of
people.
the same theme.
Let us storm the Brandreth. Let them tear him down.
I would like to challenge on the fact that he tried to say won't, but it came out as gon't, so it was deviation from the word
Jenny, you
won't.
can't have retrospective challenges.
Yeah, Jenny.
Gyles, very keen, but incorrect. Graham's still got the subject. A gut feeling. 16 seconds starting now.
I have a gut feeling that 16 seconds will seem incredibly long now. A gut feeling... Oh.
A repetition of seconds.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
St. Giles to the rescue.
You talked about seconds in the other time you were talking. Right. So, Gyles, well, listen, you've got 12 seconds. A gut feeling starting now.
I've been cherishing through the perishing winter nights and days a funny little phrase that means such a lot to me that you've got to be with me heart and soul. Gut feeling. I've got that gut feeling. It makes me feel so sweet and light and nice.
Is that your new record, Gyles?
It's a very old song. It's a very old song. I've got a gut feeling about it, though.
Right. Well, George, you were speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra
sing
point.
it, really.
And you're now just ahead of Paul Merton and Graham Norton and Jenny Eclair in that order. And this is the final round. I don't think it was that sort of gas, like a vampire. Graham, it's your turn to begin, so would you begin on this subject, Plan B?
Yes.
60 seconds, starting now.
Plan B in my life seems a very long time ago. I'm probably on X.
Paul Challenge.
There was a hesitation.
I think that was
There
a
was,
hesitation.
yeah, there was.
Yes. So, Paul, you have a correct challenge. You have Plan B, 53 seconds, starting now.
If I don't happen to win this edition of Just a Minute, I won't mind, because we are recording another programme in this venue some weeks from now. The audience here won't know that because they won't be here for that other one, because that happens.
Jenny Challenge.
Two won'ts.
Two won't. They won't be
Won't
here.
know,
Yes,
exactly.
They won't know
Yeah.
that. They won't be here.
They won't be here.
43 seconds are still available.
I can't remember what it is. What's the
Well,
subject?
don't mind, Diane.
Just a
I'll tell
Minute,
you.
Radio 4, BBC.
Yeah, you live
Won
in
a contest,
Camberwell.
you've
All right, you
been-
live in Camberwell.
You won an
Don't
award
tell
in...
them that.
We'll get you a taxi, all
Some
right?
of them think I've done better than that.
And we're in the radio theatre, and you have an imaginary friend.
Who are you? Okay, I've got it. Okay.
You've got it? You've got
Yeah.
it, right. 43 seconds, starting now.
Plan B is usually what you get when you can't afford Plan A, like me. I want a swimming pool on my roof, but I have to make do with an inflatable plastic stupid thing. When you go into this show business thing, people always say, thing.
Paul
Yeah,
Chapman.
I know.
Oh, she knows. Repetition of things.
That's right. Too many things there, I'm afraid, Jenny. And 28 seconds are still available, Paul. And you have Plan B starting now.
I was recently working in Hollywood, and there are a lot of people there who don't have a Plan B, but I think it's essential, because who's to say that Plan A, the top of your dreams, is going to come true? If you're not going to be a star at Universal Studios, it doesn't matter. It's not Paramount. You can be somebody else, working in a car wash, washing these beautiful vehicles that come in, looking towards the sky and saying to yourself, I'm going to be somebody one day when that whistle goes.
So Paul Merton then, speaking as the whistle went, brought that round to the end with a great style and panache, and also brought the show to the end in the same way. Let me give you this final situation. It's moved this way and that way like a pendulum, and might I just say that, Jenny, there's only one point that separates all four of them, if you're interested in this way. Yes. And Jenny didn't finish in the first three, but she was only 1 point behind. And Gyles and Graham together didn't finish in the first two. So it means 2 points ahead of all the others was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you're the winner this week. Thank you. And it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Gyles, Brandreth, Jenny Eclair and Graham Norton. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle magnificently every time the 60 seconds elapsed. And we thank our producer, Talusha Gilani. And we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're also grateful to this lovely audience sitting down here in the radio theatre, who seem to have enjoyed themselves. It's made our job so much easier for the warmth and laughter you've extended to us. So from our audience, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute!
And next week you can hear the last in the current series of Just a Minute with Paul Merton, Sheila Hancock, Tony Hawks and Ross Noble.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented, inventive, creative players of this game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Ross Noble and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all 4 of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from that subject. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She'll help me with a score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we're going to begin the show this week with Tony Hawks. Tony, subject is A Great Adventure. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I had a great adventure about a decade or so ago when I put a fridge by the side of the road in Ireland and decided to hitchhike around that country. I couldn't have expected it to go as well as it did, but these people embraced me, took me to their hearts. The silliness of it all somehow seemed to make them want to shower me with generosity. And I would advise everybody here, if they are feeling a little bit stuck, perhaps in a little rut in their particular walk of life at the moment, haven't found a career they're happy with, take a white goods, place it by the side of the road, embrace...
Tony Chas.
Repetition of road, side of the road.
Yes, because you went on the road, didn't you?
I did.
Nevertheless, very sound advice in this economic climate.
And the way I had to buzz because the way he's going, he was going to start signing his book.
Oh, did you manage to get a book out of it, Tony?
I've got some merchandise for sale if anyone's
So that was a correct challenge, Ross. And in this game, whoever correct challenge gets a point for that. So Ross Noble has a point, and he has a subject. He has 23 seconds, A Great Adventure, starting now.
I'm hoping to have a great adventure 1 week from today. My plan is to ride from Cape Town up through Namibia and across to Victoria Falls. I haven't yet got a map for the Skeleton Coast, but I'm planning on buying a picture of Victoria Beckham.
Sheila Chan.
Planning. I think he had 2 planning.
He's planning, yes.
It's the only planning I've done, so yeah, go on then.
So, Sheila, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. And you have 8 seconds. Tell us something about A Great Adventure, starting now.
Peter Pan thought that death was a really big adventure, so I hope he's right, because I'm getting nearer to it every minute. However...
That round of applause when she said, I'm getting nearer to him. And then they all clap. And actually, all for speaking as the whistle went, you got another point for that. So you're in the lead. You're in the lead.
Let's stop. Right.
And we'd like you to take the next round as well.
Oh, God.
The subject is memoirs.
Oh.
Tell us something about memoirs in this game, starting now.
I understand there's a difference between memoirs and autobiography, the latter being more a history of the life, from birth to death, whereas...
Paul Challenge.
No, it was the last time I said death.
Yeah. No, just an autobiography can't really be a history of your life to death. It was assumed you'd be... because you don't know when you're going to die when you're writing your autobiography.
Yeah, that's a point.
Unless you sort of leave the last word until you really know.
Yeah.
And you might be sitting there for years, just wanting to write the word aubergine, and then...
The last gets finished by a ghostwriter.
Yeah, yes!
No, you can't wriggle out of it like that.
That was a curious mixture of groaning and clapping.
A biography, yes, but not an
Not an
autobiography.
autobiography, no, you're right.
So well interpreted, Paul, and you now have the subject of memoirs. 50 seconds available, starting now.
I'm thinking of doing my memoirs. By the time you reach your 6th decade, you should perhaps consider laying down your life's achievements, but I haven't got many, so I better start doing stuff. It occurred to me the other day that some of the greatest memoirs ever written that feature in cinema...
Ross Challenge.
Oh, hesitation.
Yeah. Yes, there definitely was. Yeah. So, Ross, you have the subject. You have a point for that, of course. And there are 35 seconds. Tell us something about memoirs, starting now.
I've started my memoirs. I've written 57 pages of sat on the couch and scratched my... I can't actually say that, but it is very much...
Sheila Challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah, I think there was a hesitation there.
OK.
So, Sheila, you got the subject back again. 25 seconds, memoirs, starting now.
Memoirs are meant to be occasional memories of events that happened. I have written a book called Just Me, which is like that. It's about a journey and it reminds me of certain things. People like Jordan don't write memoirs. They actually talk to somebody.
Paul Chalmers.
A slight hesitation.
A slight hesitation.
But not really. No. Right,
No, all right. So it's withdrawn.
How many more seconds have I got?
You've got 10 seconds.
Oh.
You've still got the subject. Memoirs, starting now. Paul.
Yeah,
That was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation.
You didn't want it anymore, did you?
No, I didn't want it. I was very bored.
So, Paul,
with it.
you have a point, and you have 9 seconds. Memoirs, starting now.
Kind Hearts and Coronets is the movie that features Dennis Price as the magnificent man who commits all these murders but then writes it down.
Oh, wait a minute. Tony challenged just before the whistle. Yes,
I
Tony?
thought, given that he had only 10 seconds, he was actually just stalling talking about memoirs by giving details about a film, and it was bad.
It's a key plot.
It was bad form, and I think we were all embarrassed for Paul.
So,
I'm not plugging my previous books anyway.
Yeah.
I travelled India with a tandoori oven. I don't go on about it. And then 2 years later, Tony Hawk takes a fridge round Ireland. Well, you know.
right. So, Paul, benefit of the doubt, you were asking... Remember the last time we were here?
Oh, yes.
With the same team here?
Yes.
We were talking about benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yes, that was a few weeks ago, though,
I
wasn't
know
it?
it was.
You've got a remarkable memory. You really have. You know, I tell you what, Nicholas, I'm not going to sign that petition. I'm not going to sign it.
Right. So, this is a perfect example. You get the benefit of the doubt, and you've still got the subject of memoirs, and you have half a second starting now.
My mem...
Right. So, Paul Merton speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's equal with Sheila Hancock in the lead. And then Ross Noble and Tony Hawks in that order. Ross, will you start the next round? The subject, the joke book. Will you tell us something about the joke book starting now?
The joke book is often sneered at, but I like to think of it as simply a
Tony challenge.
Slight hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Tony. You have the subject, the joke book. 55 seconds starting now.
The joke book I like the most begins with the joke, what's red and sits in the corner? A naughty strawberry. Now that is comedy at its finest level.
Ross challenge.
If he thinks that's comedy at its finest level, I feel sorry for him.
Well, I accept your sympathy. But take the point.
Well, as someone who works in comedy, I would agree that is probably deviation from comedy of the finest.
What's red and sits in the corner? Naughty. It has love. It works on a number of levels.
Name 3.
It's charming. It's charming. It's sweet. It's infantile, but it's not comedy of the finest order.
Well, the point is, the best thing about it
That's
is
the
in
kind
the
of comedy
joke.
you like, audience. I'm a bit sorry for you, right?
Maybe we shouldn't be trying to raise their standards too much.
I think I have to give you the benefit of the doubt on this one, Ross, and say there are 44 seconds, the joke book starting now.
What's brown and sticky? A brown stick.
Tony challenge.
I feel sorry for it.
I wouldn't thought it was possible to top the strawberry game. But by goodness, that was good.
Yeah, but he wasn't maintaining that was the joke of the finest order. He just told a joke which was basic and simple and rubbish.
But it's in the book.
So it's an incorrect challenge, Ross. You've still got the joke
lovely.
book, and you've got 42 seconds starting now.
What's yellow and baggy? A yellow bag. That's right.
All challenge.
Repetition of yellow.
Yes, right. 39 seconds, Paul. The joke book starting now.
You used to see them advertised in the back of the stage. Maybe they're still there. 100 jokes for a £5. A friend of mine did one send off for this particular book, and it wasn't very good. There were, however, 2 or 3 jokes amongst the 500 that he thought weren't too bad.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of 5.
No, but
Repetition
he
of 5.
was selling it for a £5, not 5.
Yeah. If somebody's actually recording this, perhaps we could play it back. And...
No, but wasn't.
See, seems a wasted opportunity, really.
It was 101.
Well, yeah,
It was
repetition of
100.
100 then. 100 as well. He repeated 100. Just repetition generally.
This is like the World Cup,
Yeah.
isn't it? That goal in the World Cup. We need more technical
Yeah, oh,
things
yes.
so that we can hear.
So, Hawkeye is not available to us on that particular one. So, who gets the benefit of the doubt? What about let the audience decide. Who should have the benefit of the doubt, Tony or Paul? That's exactly what I thought, too. So, Paul, you have 20... I should explain to our listeners that last big laugh came because Tony put 2 fingers up to this audience. It
Which
doesn't
could work against me in the coming round.
Exactly.
If you do it again, I'll have you for repetition of fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul, there are 24 seconds. You have the joke book starting now.
Are you a bald-headed man, or is your neck blowing bubble gum? That was undoubtedly the finest jest contained within these pages. If you thought that was awful, wait till you hear the one about the strawberry that took a life support machine around Scotland and managed to get a book out of it. A man goes into a
Ross, challenge.
Repetition of man.
Yes, you had a man before.
Oh, well.
So, Ross, you've now got the subject, and there are 4 seconds, the joke book starting now.
A great big volume of hilarity. That's the best way to
So Ross Noble was speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point. He's 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's in the lead, then Sheila Hancock and Tony Hawks in that order. Oh, Paul, I think this has been chosen specially for you. Would you begin on learning to play golf? Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Only about 6 hours ago, I had my very first golf lesson. I mentioned this to the other panellists before coming onto the show. Mr. Ross Noble reacted in such a way as if I'd actually killed a goat on a sacrifice somewhere in the middle of the woods at midnight. He thinks that playing this game of golf is absolutely...
Ross.
Was that repetition of game?
Yes, right.
Was it?
45 seconds, Ross. Learning to play golf, starting now.
That's absolutely right. Mr. Paul Merton had the audacity to tell me that he has taken up golf. These dickheads with the tartan... Sorry.
With our audience, surely it must be Richard Head.
Sorry, I forgot this was the radio. Sorry. Could have been so much worse. I do apologise. Is this the first time in the history of Just a Minute somebody's blasphemed?
It's not.
No,
Dickhead isn't blaspheming unless you're referring to St. Peter.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't exactly blasphemy. It was just a bit vulgar, which we don't usually have, but usually we let the odd one slip through, which you've managed to achieve on this occasion.
Is that allowed? I wouldn't have stopped if I'd known that.
No, we enjoyed Paul's interjection. So, Paul, you have learning to play golf, 37 seconds, starting now.
It's a pastime I've looked at in the past, and perhaps... Pastime, past?
Pastime and past.
Pastime's one word, isn't it?
It's supposed to.
I suppose it is.
was
Hyphen.
definite. 33 seconds, Paul. Learning to play golf, starting now.
I've made it specifically difficult for me to learn to play golf because I'm actually playing...
Tony challenge.
He definitely said actually the first time he
Yes.
kicked off.
Yeah.
You did indeed. So, Tony, you got in with 28 seconds on learning to play golf, starting now.
The most important thing is to keep your head still. If you move that part of the...
Paul challenge.
Fine golf club, surely. That's got to be... And followed quickly by a ball. That's got to be the most important thing, not keeping your head still. I can do that at home. That's not playing golf.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. Paul, we enjoyed your interjection there.
I can see
what
where this
you
is
said.
going.
So we're going to give you a bonus point
yeah.
for what you said. But, I mean, I think we assume that people have got the clubs, and that's when you go and learn to play. And it is very important to keep your head still.
Keep your head still.
As Tony said. So, Tony, you've got a point for an incorrect challenge, and you have 24 seconds learning to play golf, starting now.
A useful tip which Paul might like to listen to if he's just taken up the game, as he assures us he has, is not to look to see where the little white thing has gone. Much of the power comes from the hips in the rotation. Write this down. This is brilliant stuff. If you remember...
Paul challenge.
Could you go slower? Rotate hips. Rotate the hips.
All right. So, Paul, we give you another bonus point for that, because we did enjoy it. So, but, Tony, you get a point for an incorrect challenge, learning to play golf, and there are 4 seconds starting now.
It's very much a mental game, too. When you...
Ross challenge.
Repetition of game.
Yes, because game's not on the card. And you have mentioned game before.
I think I
so,
probably
Ross,
did.
you've got in, and I know you don't like the game. So, what are you going to say?
Yes.
You've only got 2 seconds. Learning to play golf, starting now.
If I'm around, keep your head moving or I'll punch you in the face.
So at the end of that round, it was Ross Noble speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's creeping up on Paul Merton, who's in the lead. Then Tony Hawks and Sheila Hancock in that order. Tony, when you begin the next round, the green room. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
As you have already heard this evening, we were waiting in the green room before the show and a discussion took place about golf. I noticed that it wasn't particularly green, though, which is often the case with these rooms. Why not, I ask myself, as I go around the theatres of the country where I tell stories sometimes about some of my books, which Paul will no doubt publicise shortly. However, the history is, in fact, because actors used to wait before performances, get very nervous, feel sick, turn green. That's one theory.
Oh, Sheila, what's your challenge?
That's rubbish.
It is the most delightful rubbish, and I'm going to give it to you, Sheila. But on the other hand, most superstitions arise out of all kinds of weird ideas. But, you know, they have no logic in them, most of them. You couldn't care less, could you? Sheila, you have a correct challenge. You have 32 seconds. Tell us something about the green room, starting now.
Nobody truly knows the origin of the phrase. It is suspected it's because in a tragedy there was a green cloth on stage, which is why we also use the phrase, I'll see you,
Tony
phrase.
challenge.
Yeah, repetition of phrase.
Yeah.
Yes, phrase.
Yeah.
Tony, you've got it back again. 22 seconds, starting now.
Recently, I painted my front room green. It was a magnificent experience. It's one of my favourite.
Paul challenge.
I mean, was it really a magnificent experience? Of all the things that a human being can go through, painting, which I don't believe you did paint your front room green anyway. From there,
Right,
can you
we're
see?
all going down there now.
Right.
I'm merely establishing the fact that you're not always completely honest with what you're saying. How do we know you went round Ireland with a fridge? You might have been round the Isle of Wight with a pressure cooker. We don't know. We weren't there, were we, Nicholas? We weren't there.
No, I did see him, actually. on the way,
Did you?
yes, saw him on. Anyway, Paul, this is where you get the benefit of the doubt, because I do agree that
It's not a magnificent experience, is it?
I could have had a magnificent experience. You don't know what happened. I hadn't told you yet.
Okay, all right. I'm prepared to hear
Yes.
what this magnificent experience was made up
Very,
of.
very generous of you, Paul. Yes, I was trying to illustrate benefit of the doubt because yes, it could for some reason have been.
Yeah,
a
absolutely. I'm going
magnificent
to write this
So
down.
let's-
This is
Tony,
fantastic.
let's
This could
carry
be
on.
this would be the
17
next basis of a show.
seconds,
This.
When Jordan
wait a
came
minute,
in.
wait a minute.
It's still not a magnificent experience.
I still haven't finished.
No. 17 seconds, starting now.
When Jordan came in.
No, Ross.
Repetition of when Jordan
No,
came in.
no.
Just said it. Just said it there.
Oh,
I hadn't given them the cue to start.
my original
He
When Jordan
into-
came in was in my spare time.
Yeah. But
He was admittedly reworking his own material, but...
15 seconds, Tony, on the green room, starting now.
The green room in the Albury Theatre, not that far away from us, is...
Where's this magnificent experience? The Albury Theatre, not far away. Where's the magnificent experience?
I'm moving on.
I've got another challenge. It isn't called the Albury anymore. It's called the New.
That's true.
and you said theatre twice,
Deviation.
repetition of theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apart from the 8 things wrong with it...
I gave up a challenge for magnificent experience, and I still haven't heard it.
I know, I'm going to give it to Sheila.
Are you?
Are you?
Yeah.
Will that be a magnificent experience?
After all these years, Nick. After all these years.
And will it be just a minute?
This is the game where you can stick your head in a noose, isn't it? Sheila, you got the subject. The green room, 12 seconds, starting now.
The stage was covered in a green carpet.
Ross challenged.
It's a repetition of stage.
Stage, yes.
About the stage, yes. So, Ross, you've gone in with 10 seconds on the green room, starting now.
I got a job as a decorator and I had to paint rooms green. In fact, one client...
Paul challenged.
Well, you'll be able to help me here. Did you find it a magnificent experience? Was it just overwhelming?
Yeah. Was it a magnificent experience?
Hand it back and I'll tell you.
Right. Anyway, it was an incorrect challenge. 5 seconds. Still with you, Ross. The green room starting now.
Imagine my surprise when I turned up to Tony Hawk's house and there was Jordan standing outside. I could not believe my eyes as I walked through.
So Ross Noble was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's equal in the lead with Paul Merton, and the other two are training just a little. Sheila, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is My Burning Desire. Oh, God, after what I've said. My Burning Desire, starting now.
Well, I'd better pursue this. My burning desire is to have a minute with Nick. After many years on this programme, I never have, and this is the obvious opportunity to have a magnificent experience. On top of that, I would like to be an orchestral player. I've always loved the idea of doing a Mahler symphony, playing one of the many violin parts, or a quartet at the Wigmore Hall. I don't want to be a star player because...
Ross, challenge.
Repetition of player.
Yes, I want to be a player, right. 36 seconds, Ross, on My Burning Desire, starting now.
My burning desire is to dress up as Nicholas Parsons and surprise Sheila when she least expects it. That's right.
Oh, Sheila, challenge.
Deviation. I absolutely don't want him turning up dressed up as Nicholas Parsons. I want us to put a stop to it now. Before this goes any further.
I think that is a deviation, because, I mean, coming along as Nicholas Parsons, and it wouldn't surprise you.
And you're already there. I would be so confused.
It's worked before,
It
Nicholas.
wouldn't surprise you, because you'd see through it immediately, wouldn't you?
I would.
I mean, I haven't got as much hair as him for a start.
No.
Sheila, you have the benefit of the doubt.
No.
Yes, you have.
Well, if she doesn't want it.
22 seconds? I've been talking about my burning desire for hours.
I know.
It can't only be 22 seconds. No. Surely your watch is wrong.
No, it's not my watch. So, you have 22 seconds. My Burning Desire, Sheila, starting now.
I would...
challenge.
Well, I feel that Sheila doesn't really want the subject anymore.
Yes, I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll have that extra point.
Okay, right.
21 seconds.
I just thought every time you said, oh, my God, how much longer is it?
So, Sheila, 20 seconds now on My Burning Desire, starting now.
I would play quartets at the Wigmore... Oh, I said that, haven't I?
Yes.
It's quartet at the Wigmore Hall again.
Yeah. But that is my burning desire. Yeah. That is my idea.
So, Ross, you got in with the correct challenge now. Another point to you. 17 seconds. My Burning Desire, starting now.
I have a burning desire, but luckily I was able to get antibiotics from my friendly doctor, and it cleared up in no time whatsoever. I remember the time when I was down at the Wigmore Hall, hanging around outside, waiting for Sheila to come by, where I could make her dreams come true by pushing her through the...
And we are entering the final round. Let me give you the situation as we go into that final round. In reverse order, Tony Hawk's is trailing a little. He's 2 behind Sheila Hancock, and she's 2 behind Paul Merton, and he's 3 behind Ross Noble. I don't know.
Ooh. Don't sound so surprised. Ooh, the idiot's done well.
No, they were taking on the drama that I was trying to build up. And Ross, we'd like you to begin this round. It's If I Were a Robot. Can you... I don't know how you take that, but talk on it. 60 seconds starting now.
If I were a robot, then I wouldn't need to wrap my legs in tinfoil as I do every night, moving around my living room, pretending to be one of those particular machines. I talk in a voice robotic like this, and it really does entertain the children and scare animals. I place 2 torches either side of my head.
Tony, challenge.
Repetition of 2.
Yes, right. So Tony's got the subject. 41 seconds on If I Were a Robot, Tony, starting now.
If I Were a Robot is the opening song of a new, updated version of Fiddler on the Roof, which I saw not that long ago. Quite a magnificent evening was had by all who went to see...
Paul Town.
I don't trust your use of the word magnificent. We've had issues about this before. I don't know that the rewrite of Fiddler on the Roof, I Am a Robot, necessarily constitutes a magnificent evening in the theatre.
The thing is, though, Paul, you see...
No, I agree with you in the same way that it wasn't a magnificent experience with his green...
Am I not allowed to have any magnificent experiences anymore?
them, just don't describe ordinary ones as being magnificent.
Well, they may be ordinary to you. I'm fantastically easily pleased. I'm having a magnificent time now.
Paul, let's be fair to Tony. It may be rubbish to most of us.
Yes.
But he thought it was magnificent.
Yes.
So if that's his particular attitude, we have to
absolutely.
let him have his way, doesn't it? So, Tony, you have the subject, If I Were a Robot, and there are 29 seconds starting now.
I would go round people's houses, break down the door and take away their remote controls. Because they would...
Paul Chance.
Hesitation.
Yeah, I think that was a hesitation, yes. 21 seconds starting now.
If I were a robot, I would wander around my house doing simple household duties. I would look at the sink and think to myself, those plates are rather dirty. I shall go into washing up the dishes mode, and simply a button would be pressed on my chest, my antennae would flow around with electrical ions, and then I would go to work. Being a robot...
Right. So Paul brought that round to an end magnificently, gained that extra point for doing so.
Well, it's a controversial word, magnificent. If you're saying that my contribution is equal to paint drying...
Well, this is the man that's about to get his excitement playing golf.
So, equal in third place were Tony Hawks and Sheila Hancock. But you were only 2 or 3 points behind Paul Merton, who was in second place, but 1 point ahead of him was Ross Noble. So we say, Ross, you are our winner this week. So it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine, delightful and wonderfully humorous players of this game. We also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle most elegantly when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're also indebted to our producer, to Lucia Galani, who steered us on our way. From this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it all. But don't forget, tune in again the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Yay!